1984 is a tale of a man who tries to find love, but instead ends up in a toxic relationship with the government. Alright, hello everyone. So, today we're going to be talking about 1984, director Michael Radford's 1984 dystopian film based on George Orwell's 1949 novel. It stars John Hurt as Winston Smith himself, alongside Richard Burton and Susanna Hamilton in the main supporting roles. And fun fact, this was Burton's last on-screen performance.
Your kind is extinct. We are the inheritors.
Now, unlike the Fly recap, this video is more of a critique on whether or not 1984 actually lives up to its source material. Now, don't get me wrong, this movie actually has its merits. It's critically acclaimed, well acted, and has beautiful cinematography. But the main problem here is that it's just a lot of wasted potential. The kind of potential that probably got thrown down the memory hole right after the first script draft. Like, the movie's just so horribly slow and emotionally distant that it feels less like a warning about totalitarianism and more like a 2-hour PSA for depression. So with that out of the way, let's break down why 1984, to me, feels less like a dystopian masterpiece and more like the cinematic equivalent of grey wallpaper. And as always, spoilers ahead if you haven't seen this movie. So the movie opens up in the year 1984. And it's set in the totalitarian superstate of Oceania, claimed to be locked in a perpetual war with two other superstates, Eurasia and Eastasia. Oceania is led by the party and Big Brother, who make sure nobody has any thoughts that deviate from the party line. Yeah. In this world, it's illegal to think freely. And it's here that we get introduced to Winston Smith, an outer-party member who works at the Ministry of Truth rewriting history.
Rough Times 14284, page 3 by line 2 should read, Miniprod forecast increased chocolate ration April 1984 from 20 to 25 grams per week.
And like any sane person in a hellhole like this, he is miserable and secretly rebellious. He begins a forbidden romance with a girl named Julia, all the while learning about the resistance through inner party member and seemingly fellow thought criminal O'Brien. However, we're not watching a Hollywood film, because Winston and Julia eventually get caught and arrested, and O'Brien is actually not a thought criminal. Enter the Ministry of Love, also known as the worst therapy session ever. After Winston gets tortured by O'Brien, the former gets his mind twisted into the form that's acceptable to Big Brother, which then leads to his betrayal of Julia. And so, the movie ends with him completely rehabilitated, purged from any rebellious thoughts, and loyal to Big Brother. Yeah. It's as fun as it sounds. The movie focuses on Winston's futile attempts to rebel and the inevitability of his defeat. And to be blunt, that's about it really. The movie just treats the plot like it's carrying a bunch of unnecessary baggage at the airport and decides to leave half of it behind. Like in the novel, Orwell goes to absolute detail to explain the party's ideology, how Newspeak works, why the past is constantly rewritten, and how doublethink keeps the whole system afloat. He makes you understand exactly why Oceania is so terrifying, not just because people are oppressed, but because they're trained to accept their own oppression as normal. The movie? Nah, don't worry about it. We get a couple of references to Newspeak, a few mentions of doublethink here and there, and then we're back to watching Winston look miserable.
Bugger.
But Winston doesn't just sit around feeling vaguely sad. In the book, he actively tries to understand the party's control and even reads the book, a supposedly revolutionary text by Emmanuel Goldstein that lays out how the party maintains its power. It's an essential part of the novel because it gives us context to how this world functions. But in the movie, we just get about 2 sentences from it before the plot shrugs and moves on. And this just completely waters down Winston's entire journey. Like he's supposed to start as a passive observer who gradually transforms into a man who's actively trying to reclaim his humanity. But here he just looks tired all the time, like his main act of rebellion is staring longingly into the distance like he's waiting for a bus that never arrives. Then there's Julia. In the book, she's pragmatic, passionate, and very aware how to game the system while secretly resisting it. She doesn't care about political ideology. She just wants to break the rules because it gives her a sense of personal freedom. But in the movie, she's just there. Like, their relationship goes from 0 to, hey, I love you, let's commit treason in record time. There's no real build-up, no real chemistry, just two people deciding they're in love because the script said so. And this really just diminishes the impact of their betrayal later, to the point where I just didn't care. Winston and Julia's love is the one thing that gives them strength against the party, but here their entire relationship is the equivalent of texting, oh, are you up? And then deciding to overthrow the government together.
I love you.
I love you too.
Even the ending feels rushed. Winston is tortured physically and psychologically until he doesn't just obey the party, he loves Big Brother. He's genuinely incapable of independent thought. But it just feels like it's on fast forward. Like Room 101, the scene that should be the pinnacle of horror, is intense but doesn't have the same weight. Like the psychological horror of losing yourself, which is the entire point of Orwell's message, isn't explored enough. So the biggest issue with 1984's plot is that it just strips it down to the point where a lot of its impact is lost. We just get a montage of events strung together without the deeper context that made Orwell's novel so powerful. Like, sure, the cinematography is beautiful and the performances are strong, but without the depth that made the novel terrifying, the film feels more like a dystopian mood board than a fully realized adaptation.
Steamer! Dead over it! Get down! Get down!
In many ways, 1984 sticks faithfully to the source material, like how the party monitors everyone through telescreens, the thought police ensuring no rebellious thoughts go unchecked, and history constantly rewritten to suit the present narrative. And this is one of the redeeming qualities of the film. It actually does it really well. So visually, the movie is great. Like, Roger Deakins' cinematography is absolutely stunning. The production design reflects the banality of living under totalitarian rule very well. Like, the movie just nails the sense of hopelessness. But does it go deeper than that? No. The world just feels like it's built for the plot, but it doesn't live in a way that fully makes you experience the terror of this society, like you might expect from a truly immersive dystopian world. It's just atmosphere, 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 and it leaves you with just enough to know it's bad without really feeling it.
Please, what do you want me to do?
You will do what is required of you.
What really makes 1984 terrifying in the first place is emotional defeat. Like, Winston's downfall isn't just physical. Sure, there's the torture, the beating, the brainwash and all that lovely stuff, but the real horror comes when the party breaks his spirit. Winston doesn't just lose his freedom, he loses his mind. He loses his very sense of self. His rebellion is fueled by the hope of love, individuality and truth, but it's just all shattered. He's made to betray Julia, and he's made to believe that Big Brother is actually right. The party doesn't need to physically destroy you, they just need to destroy your ability to think for yourself and to feel anything beyond their control. The movie does touch on this, but you can't feel Winston's inner anguish properly the way you should, because the film doesn't give enough time or emotional depth to show us his transformation. Like, it tells you what happens, but it doesn't make you live it. That's the problem. Now let's talk about how this could have been fixed, because a movie adaptation of one of the most well-known dystopian novels of all time should probably make you feel something other than mild existential boredom. More emotional connection to Winston. Look, John Hurt was great, but the movie treats him more like a walking symbol of oppression rather than a fully realized human being. He just kind of exists, looking sad in various shades of grey or something. Maybe having some more internal monologue or narration. Maybe more intimate or visceral moments where we feel his growing paranoia. Like, instead of just watching him be sad, we should experience his fear, his desperation, his moments of hope, because right now we're just observing it from a comfortable emotional distance. And a dystopian film should make me feel trapped and hopeless, not just slightly inconvenienced like I forgot my headphones at home. Make the romance matter. Winston and Julia's relationship is supposed to be the one bright spot in this movie. It's supposed to matter when they betray each other, but here their relationship just kind of happens. They meet, they sleep together, they rebel, and then they get caught. Give them more chemistry. Show us why they care about each other. Let them actually feel like a couple rather than two people who decided to commit treason because they were probably bored. Like, if we don't believe in their love, we don't feel its destruction. And right now, Winston and Julia have about as much chemistry as two co-workers forced to share an Uber ride. actually show the horror of living in Oceania. Now, the film's production design is solid, like I said before. It looks appropriately grim and oppressive, but that's all just surface level. We see that life in Oceania sucks, but we don't feel it. And quite frankly, it just feels more like an unusually strict corporate office than a totalitarian superstate. But maybe show more of the everyday horror, the fear of being watched, the casual betrayals, the tiny ways people try and fail to cling to their humanity. Instead of just watching Winston mope around doing nothing, maybe give us more scenes of why this world is so terrifying. More people being vaporized, more insidious psychological control. Make it suffocating. Make it unbearable. Don't just depict the themes, make us feel them. This is by far the biggest problem in this movie. It just depicts Orwell's themes but doesn't immerse us in them. Yes, we understand totalitarianism is bad. Yes, we see Winston's downfall. Yes, do all this, but do we feel as mind-breaking? Not really. So make us live Winston's transformation. The torture scenes should be agonizing, not just uncomfortable. Room 101 obviously, should feel like the moment of ultimate nihilism, not just another mildly unpleasant Tuesday. Orwell's book makes you feel like you're being personally mind controlled, but this movie makes you feel like you should check your phone all the time. Like, honestly, yeah, it had everything going for it. Great actors, great cinematography, and one of the most important stories of the 20th century to adapt. But instead of being this amazing, soul-shattering experience, it just ends up being a beautifully shot summary of Orwell's book. Is it a bad movie? No, it's just not enough. It's just too emotionally distant to pack the punch that Orwell's novel delivers. It presents the horror without allowing you to truly experience it. And so instead of leaving the viewer mentally and emotionally scarred, the movie leaves them feeling, well, empty. So that's about it for this video. Make sure to subscribe, and I'll see you on the next video.